She'll never amount to anything. The words slammed across the dinner table like a hammer. My father's voice was steady, almost casual, but it felt like a blade slicing through me. I froze, fork halfway to my mouth. The clatter of silverware and faint hum of conversation died instantly. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest. Tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. Mom didn't argue. She gave a tiny nod, lips pursed as if she'd known this truth all along. My sister, perfect little Amanda in her designer dress, smirked, swirling her wine like she was toasting to my failure. I swallowed hard. Heat burned my throat, and a lump pressed against my chest, but I forced my hands to stay steady. The air felt thick, suffocating. Every eye at the table, aunts, uncles, cousins, had darted toward me, waiting for my reaction. "Dad," I whispered, my voice breaking before I could catch it. "Why would you—" He leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "Because it's true, Natalie. Look at you. 26 years old, still fumbling around with odd jobs, no stable career, no direction. You're a disappointment." The word detonated in my skull. Disappointment. Amanda chuckled under her breath, sipping her wine like she was enjoying a show. "Don't take it personally, Nat. Not everyone is cut out for success. Some of us are just built different." The room erupted with soft laughter, like hyenas circling a wounded animal. My hands trembled, nails digging into my palms beneath the table. The humiliation crawled over my skin, stinging worse than fire. But what no one realized, what they had all missed, was the faint scrape of a chair at the far end of the table. Grandpa Harold, 82 years old, slow to move, slow to speak, but sharp as a hawk when he wanted to be, had been sitting silently all evening. His weathered hands rested on the cane by his chair, his gaze steady, calculating. I could feel him watching. I dropped my eyes to the plate, my father's words echoing in my head like poison. For years, I'd stayed quiet. For years, I'd swallowed the insults, the smirks, the endless comparisons to Amanda. But something inside me twisted, an ache that wanted to explode. And then Grandpa's chair scraped louder this time, dragging against the hardwood floor. The sound silenced the room. Every head turned. Even Amanda lowered her glass. Grandpa's voice cut through the thick silence. Gravelly, deliberate. Enough. The single word struck harder than anything I'd ever heard. His hands pressed on the table as he slowly stood, his cane tapping against the floor. His eyes swept the room, sharp despite his age. "I've listened to this family tear her down long enough," he said, his gaze landing on Dad, then on Mom, and finally Amanda. "But tonight? You've gone too far." A shiver crept up my spine. Grandpa straightened to his full height, taller than most remembered. His next words rolled out like thunder. "You say she'll never amount to anything? Then maybe it's time I tell you all the truth." The air shifted instantly. Every fork stilled, every laugh died. Amanda's face drained of color. My father's jaw locked, his smirk faltering. And for the first time in years, the room wasn't laughing at me anymore. It was waiting. For him. For what he was about to reveal. The silence was so heavy it pressed against my ears. Grandpa Harold's voice lingered in the air, like smoke from a fire no one dared put out. Amanda tried to laugh it off first, tossing her hair back. "Grandpa, really, don't start. Natalie doesn't need pity. She needs a reality check." But Grandpa didn't even look at her. His gaze stayed locked on my father. "Reality check?" His cane tapped once against the floor. "Richard, you dare lecture about reality when you've hidden behind lies for years?" Dad's expression hardened, though his hand twitched slightly near his glass. "What are you talking about, Dad? This is ridiculous?" "No!" Grandpa snapped, his voice sharper now, cutting through the air like glass. "What's ridiculous is watching a family poison their own blood. Do you even realize who Natalie is? Do you even remember what I entrusted her with?" My stomach flipped. Entrusted? My mind scrambled. Grandpa had never spoken about me like this. Not in front of anyone. My chest pounded as every head at the table turned toward him, faces pale, eyes darting. He took a slow step forward, leaning on his cane. While you sit here mocking her, calling her useless, you're blind to the truth. Natalie has already achieved more than any of you realize. She's not weak. She's not a failure. She's the only one in this family who's proven herself worthy. My mother's fork slipped from her hand and clattered against the plate. Dad, stop this nonsense. Amanda has the career, the success, the reputation. Natalie has nothing. Grandpa's eyes narrowed on her. Nothing? You think money in a bank account and a hollow title on a business card define success? Diane, you've become so shallow you wouldn't see strength if it stood right in front of you. Amanda's smirk had vanished. She looked almost nervous. Grandpa's hand tightened around his cane. His voice dropped lower, steady, dangerous. Do you all remember the day I sold my company? Dad's jaw clenched. Of course. You retired. No, Grandpa said coldly. I didn't retire, I chose. I spent 50 years building an empire from the ground up, and I wasn't about to hand it over to someone greedy or entitled. I gave it to someone I could trust, someone who earned it. Every breath in the room seemed to catch. My throat ran dry. My palms went clammy, Grandpa, I whispered. What are you saying? He turned, and for the first time that night, his piercing eyes softened. When they landed on me. Natalie, I gave it to you. The words slammed into me like a tidal wave. My heart stopped, then raced so fast I thought I'd collapse. My father's chair scraped against the floor as he lurched forward. What? Dad roared. You can't be serious. Amanda's face twisted in disbelief. Her? You gave her the company? Yes, Grandpa thundered. His voice carried the weight of decades of authority, silencing every gasp, every protest. Years ago, I placed the shares, the documents, the power of that company under Natalie's name. Quietly. Because I wanted to see who she was when no one was watching. I couldn't breathe. My mind replayed every odd conversation Grandpa and I had shared. His quiet advice, his probing questions, the way he always asked how I was managing instead of criticizing me. I thought he was just being kind. But he'd been watching. Testing me. Trusting me. Dad's face was red, his fist pounding the table. That company should have gone to me. To Amanda, not her. She's done nothing. Nothing? Grandpa's voice cracked like a whip. He pointed his cane straight at him. Natalie worked odd jobs, yes, but she worked. She fought. She failed, she got back up, she kept going. She showed humility. She showed resilience. Tell me, Richard, when's the last time you did anything without expecting applause? The room was deathly still. Amanda's lip trembled. This is insane. Grandpa, you're rewarding mediocrity. She doesn't have what it takes to run anything. Grandpa leaned forward, his eyes like steel. Amanda, you've had everything handed to you. Prestige, wealth, attention. And yet, you sneer at your sister as if tearing her down makes you taller. That arrogance? That's why you could never lead. Leadership is sacrifice. Leadership is empathy. And Natalie has both. My vision blurred. Tears threatened to spill, but I bit them back. Not here. Not in front of them. Dad slammed his fist again, rattling the dishes. You had no right. That company belongs to this family. Grandpa's voice lowered to a growl. She is this family. And I'll tell you something else. You may have spent years breaking her down, but from this moment forward, the balance has shifted. You mocked her for being directionless, yet she holds more power now than any of you sitting at this table. The silence was crushing. My breath came in shaky bursts. My family, who'd laughed, sneered, humiliated me minutes ago, now sat stiff, wide-eyed, unable to move. And me? I felt something spark deep inside, a flame I hadn't realized was still alive. Power, dignity, maybe even revenge. Grandpa's cane struck the floor one last time, echoing through the dining room. This is Natalie's era now, and you'd all better remember it. I sat there trembling, the world shifting beneath me. For the first time, their laughter wasn't louder than my heartbeat. For the first time, they looked afraid. I barely slept that night. My mind spun with Grandpa's words, his revelations still echoing. This is Natalie's era now. I stared at the ceiling until dawn, adrenaline surging through me. Part of me wanted to believe it was all a dream, that by morning everything would go back to the same cruel rhythm. But when I checked my email, the truth stared back at me. A message from Grandpa's attorney. Subject line: confirmation of ownership. Attached were the documents. My name on the shares. My name on the board. My name as majority owner of the company my father had spent his whole life scheming to control. My hands shook as I read through it. It wasn't just real, it was ironclad. Grandpa hadn't just defended me. He had handed me the power to change everything. But the Parker family wasn't going to surrender quietly. By noon, I was at the company's downtown headquarters, a sleek glass tower that seemed to pierce the sky. As I stepped through the revolving doors, heads turned. Employees whispered. Most of them knew me only as Richard Parker's failure daughter, the one who floated from job to job. But the guards didn't hesitate. They opened the doors to the executive floor for me. Inside, I could already hear raised voices. Dad, Amanda, Mom. They were in the boardroom. Outrageous. This has to be undone, Dad's voice thundered, rattling against the glass walls. Amanda's shrill tone followed. She doesn't have the brains or the background. You can't seriously let her take over. She'll embarrass us all. I pushed the door open, and every head snapped toward me. The room fell silent. My father's face flushed red instantly. What are you doing here? He spat. I stepped inside, my heels clicking against the polished floor. My pulse raced, but my voice was calm, steady. I'm here because this is my boardroom now. Amanda scoffed, arms crossed. You're delusional. Just because Grandpa handed you papers doesn't mean you can run this place. I turned toward her, my eyes sharp. Funny, I didn't see you on those papers. Or you, Dad. Or you, Mom. Just me. Mom tried to soften her voice, her usual manipulative tone dripping through. Natalie, honey, you don't understand how complicated this is. Running a company isn't for someone like you. Why don't you just sign it back over? Your father can handle it. You'll be taken care of. I felt something cold and powerful rise in my chest. They still thought I could be swayed with scraps. That I'd roll over and hand it all back. No, I said firmly, my voice cutting through the tension. For years you told me I'd never amount to anything. Last night you humiliated me in front of the entire family. And now? Now you want me to hand you the empire Grandpa entrusted to me? Not happening. Dad slammed his hand on the table. This company is my legacy. No, Dad, I snapped, stepping closer, meeting his glare head on. It was Grandpa's legacy, and he decided I'm the one who deserves it, not you. The board members, executives who had been sitting quietly in shock, shifted in their seats. A few even nodded faintly, as if agreeing with me. Amanda's voice cracked with desperation. You'll ruin everything. You don't know how to lead. You're a joke. I turned slowly to face her. Then watch me. Her face blanched. The silence that followed was thick, pulsing with electricity. Grandpa's cane tapped suddenly from the corner. I hadn't even noticed he'd entered the room. His presence filled the space like thunderclouds rolling in. She won't ruin anything, he said, his voice gravelly but unshakable. I've seen her spirit, her resilience, and unlike the rest of you, she knows what struggle feels like. That's why she'll lead with strength you can't even comprehend. My father collapsed into his chair, his face pale, defeated. Amanda bit her lip until it bled, eyes blazing with hate. Mom sat frozen, her mask of control finally cracked. And me? I stood straighter than I ever had in my life. I wasn't the failure at the dinner table anymore. I wasn't the one they mocked behind my back. I was the one holding the keys to their future. For once, they were the ones trembling, and I wasn't going to waste a second of it. The boardroom smelled of tension, like sweat, fear, and something burning unseen. My family sat frozen, stripped of the smug confidence they had worn all my life. I stood at the head of the table now, where my father had always imagined himself. My hands rested on the polished wood, steady despite the storm inside me. This company is mine, I said, my voice sharp, unwavering. And from this moment on, things will change. For everyone. Dad's face twisted with rage. You can't push me out. I built relationships here. These people know me. Know you as what? I cut in. A man who barked orders and took credit for other people's work? You think loyalty is fear? That's not leadership, Dad. That's rot. And it ends today. Amanda leaned forward, her nails digging into the table. You don't get it, Natalie. You don't belong here. You'll humiliate yourself in front of the entire industry. I turned my eyes on her, cold and deliberate. I'd rather risk humiliation than keep living a lie. You're so terrified of me succeeding because you've built your whole identity on me failing. But look around, Amanda. You're the one invisible here. Her breath caught, her bravado cracking. Mom finally spoke, her voice desperate, trembling. Natalie, don't do this. You'll regret it. Family should stick together, I laughed softly, bitterly. Family? You only called me family when it suited you. Last night you nodded when Dad called me nothing. You laughed when Amanda mocked me. That wasn't family. That was cruelty. The room went still again. Grandpa's cane tapped against the floor. His voice carried the final nail in the coffin. Natalie doesn't just belong here. She owns here. And if any of you dare undermine her, you'll find yourselves without a seat at this table. Dad's shoulders sagged, his power crumbling in front of everyone. Amanda stared down at her lap, pale, silent. Mom pressed her lips tight, her eyes glistening. But me, I felt the fire in my chest turn into steel. I straightened, locking eyes with every executive in the room. This isn't about revenge. This is about respect. And I promise you, I will fight harder for this company than anyone ever has, because I know what it means to claw my way up from nothing. I know what it means to be dismissed, mocked, and underestimated. And I know what it means to prove people wrong. The executives exchanged glances. One by one, they nodded. Subtle, certain. The balance had shifted completely. I walked toward the massive windows overlooking the city, my reflection tall against the glass. For the first time, I saw myself not as the forgotten daughter, not as the family scapegoat, but as someone powerful. Someone unstoppable. I turned back. My voice was calm, almost eerily so. Dad, Amanda, Mom, you don't control me anymore. You don't define me. I define myself. And from this day forward, you answer to me. The silence was deafening. Dad's mouth opened, but no words came. Amanda blinked rapidly, fighting back tears of fury. Mom looked away, as if unable to face me. And me? I walked out of that boardroom, each step echoing like thunder, knowing their world had just collapsed. Grandpa followed slowly behind, his cane tapping rhythmically. He leaned close enough for only me to hear and whispered, I told you, Natalie. It's your era now. Don't ever let them take it back. I nodded, a fierce determination settling in my chest. Because he was right. This wasn't just revenge. This was the beginning. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid.